Hi friends, I'm Miss Marla and I'm an author and I have a company called Woofbooks. And it's called Woofbooks because most of my books are written about dogs, special dogs in my life. But two of my stories are written about people. Now last night we had a book called Tommy and the Messed Up Orders. I hope you got to see it. If not, you can find it on Facebook on my page, Woofbooks, W-O-O-F, like woof woof like a dog, Woofbooks. I posted it there. And that book is about a true friend, a good friend of mine that I just kind of happened to turn into a fourth grader, so it'll be a fun children's book. Tonight's book is also very special. It's about two very special women in my life. One is my mom, and the other is her dear, dear friend, Charlotte. And the book is called The Adventures of Grandma Charlotte. Now look at those cool pictures. They were drawn by a lady named Haley Weiss. And I picked her because she just drew the cutest little faces and beautiful, beautiful colors. So are you ready to get started to hear this fun story? Now, if you have this book at home, go get it and you can follow along and read along. Or you could just sit and listen, whether you have the book or not. I will say, though, if you have some paper nearby and a pencil, you might want to get that because at the end of the book, I have some questions that you can write down and you can answer them later and share them with your family because there's some really cool things to think about. So this book is kind of educational as well as being fun. Now, once there were two very nice grandmas. They were friends. One was Grandma Shirley. That's my mom. And the other was Grandma Charlotte. They were best friends. They met each other at an exercise class in New Jersey. Yep, New Jersey. That's where they lived. I wonder how many of you live in New Jersey. They lived on exit 8A, if you happen to live there, by the way, just so you know. Now, they got along famously, which really means they were very silly in class. How many of you are silly in class? I'll bet you a lot of you are. Now, the two grandmas like to make up silly words to songs and silly words to the music and to do silly dances when they were in class. And they were so silly and so funny that they made everyone around them laugh. Look like they're having fun, huh? Now, Grandma Shirley wanted to invite Grandma Charlotte to lunch one day, but she realized she didn't have Grandma Charlotte's phone number. So she remembered seeing Grandma Charlotte's license plate on her car, a very unusual license plate, K-H-A-A-T-Z. And thought that must be Charlotte's last name. Yeah, that's it, Mrs. Charlotte Katz. But for some reason, the listing could not be found. Well, she thought maybe the number's private. So the next time she went to exercise class, she mentioned this to Grandma Charlotte, who roared with laughter and explained that she was one of those cat ladies. Yes, Grandma Charlotte loves cats, and she had many of them. Grandma Charlotte loved them so much that she decided to tell the world about her love for cats on her license plate number. She just wanted everyone to know how much she loved kitty cats. But you know what? She spelled it a little differently, right? K-H-A-A-T-Z. When you really spell the word cats, C-A-T-S. Apparently, Grandma Charlotte was silly even when she was in an exercise class. It wasn't her name after all. The grandmas exchanged phone numbers, and after that day, they went out for coffee and lunch and shopping and silliness all the time. And they were very silly in their exercise class, too. They didn't stop being silly there, making everyone laugh with their silly songs and silly dances, and even making silly faces. You want to make a silly face with me? Yeah, good job. Good job. Grandma Charlotte used to be a teacher. She loved teaching the 4th grade. And she learned a lot about her students there, about making silly faces. Now, is anybody in the 4th grade? I'll bet you're pretty good at making silly faces, aren't you? She finally decided to retire after 40 years of teaching. Then she enjoyed planting flowers in her garden. And taking care of people and teaching people how to plant their own gardens. But you know what? After a while, she missed doing super meaningful things for other people and things that helped others. And so she decided to volunteer all around the world, helping people and studying animals. Even though cats were her favorite, she loved all animals, just like me. Grandma Charlotte enjoyed sharing her stories with Grandma Shirley. She told her about many, many adventures. Grandma Shirley loved hearing about these adventures, but they were things she would never, ever do herself. Things like riding on sea turtles in the Galapagos Islands. And sleeping on the jungle floor with spiders dangling above her. Eek! She was brave. And floating down rivers on rafts in exotic places and getting bitten not once but twice by some special magical fish, magical jumping fish, which, legends have it, only jump up and bite people once every 100 years. And they bit her twice. She looks pretty happy about it, probably because everybody treated her like she was someone special, because that never happened. Only once every 100 years. My goodness. Or, my favorite, flying in a hot air balloon over the Serengeti in Africa and blowing kisses to all the wild animals. She especially loved the lions. Hey, did you guys notice my earrings? I'm wearing hot air balloons in honor of Grandma Charlotte. She also liked studying animals like bugs and lemurs and black bears and all animals that lived in the forest. That's just to name a few. And every time Grandma Shirley heard about the details, this is a true story now, every time she heard these details, especially things like dangling spiders and jumping fish, she said something like, "This is reason 972 why I don't take these trips with you." That's true. She said that all the time. Apparently, Grandma Shirley was not quite as adventurous as Grandma Charlotte, and she really didn't like spiders. The only trip she would have enjoyed was when Grandma Charlotte went to an orphanage in Romania and got to rock babies for 8 hours all day long. Now, Grandma Shirley would have loved that because, after all, Grandma Shirley was one of the best grandmas in town. But her idea of a real adventure was watching the Weather Channel. Who can blame her? Those storms are something else. When Grandma Charlotte and Grandma Shirley decided to move to new homes to be closer to their families, Each one was sad to say goodbye. But you know what? Every week the two of them talked on the phone for at least an hour. And they were still good friends and could still be silly and laugh together. Grandma Charlotte still shared stories about her adventures, and the two grandmas laughed and laughed and laughed. One day, Grandma Charlotte told Grandma Shirley a big secret. Do you want to know what it is? Are you sure? Here's the secret. Shh. As much as she loved all her many fun adventures, Grandma Charlotte's very favorite thing to do was to be at home near her family, sitting in her favorite chair, snuggling with her cats, drinking tea, and laughing with her dear friend, Grandma Shirley. Now that's the kind of adventure any grandma could love. And there she is, her favorite thing to do. Did you like that story? We're going to talk about some things in this story. So if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, I'm going to ask you some questions and read you some things, and maybe you can jot them down. And afterwards, you can talk with your families about these things. So the first thing I wanted to point out is that the two grandmas show us that we can have fun adventures no matter how old we are or how young we are. And sometimes just learning something new is a fun adventure, right? Grandma Shirley learned a lot about the weather on the Weather Channel. She didn't go on big adventures like Charlotte, but she learned about things on the Weather Channel. It was very interesting for her. She also liked doing challenging puzzles and learning new languages. She actually had a really good time learning Italian. And she liked using her brain, and using her brain is always an adventure. Grandma Shirley was really, really good at using her brain. Do you speak another language? If you do, write it down right now. Maybe you speak more than one other language. How cool is that? I speak 3, Russian, French, and Chinese. It was very fun to learn them. So here's the second question. What's your favorite kind of adventure? Now, you don't have to answer that right now. Just write it down for later. You can think about it and think about what kind of adventure you would like. Would you like to climb a mountain? Would you like to rock babies in an orphanage? Or would you like to study a new musical instrument or do a fun puzzle? They're all adventures, just different kinds of adventures. Here's another question for you. Grandma Charlotte went to many new many new places. Oh my goodness, it's been a long story. I need to try that again. Grandma Charlotte went to many new places. See if you can find the Galapagos Islands and the Serengeti on the map and find them and write down what kind of animals you might find there. I'll spell that for you. Galapagos Islands is Galapagos. Galapagos Islands. That's where she was riding the sea turtle. And the Serengeti in Africa is spelled Serengeti. And see if you can find some information somewhere. Maybe your parents can help you, or you can look if you have a computer and find out what kind of animals you would find in both of those places. So you can learn something new today. Well, here's another one. On what continent can you find Romania? You might want to look that up. Where would you find Romania? And what countries are nearby? There's something new to learn if you're bored this week. Try that out. Now here's something that's a little bit different kind of learning. This is about learning about yourself. You know, Grandma Charlotte said that she kind of missed doing meaningful things for other people. She just loved to make other people happy and be better, and she liked to help the animals. So if you could do some things for others that were super meaningful, what would you choose? Would you volunteer somewhere? Would you bring groceries to somebody who couldn't get out? Would you sit with somebody who didn't have a friend at school? What kind of thing would you do that would be super meaningful? Write that down, and maybe you have a lot of ideas, and then you could talk about it with your family. And the other question is, who can help you do that? Who can help you achieve those goals? Maybe your parents, maybe a friend. It's just something to think about. How can you make the world a better place? And here's a fun one. If you had a car, like Grandma Charlotte with her cat's license plate, right? What one word would you put on the license plate to describe you or something you love? Now I have to tell you, mine is drummer girl because I play the drums. What would you put on yours? I'll bet you it's something really interesting. And last but not least, and this is really important, I came from a family that moved a lot of times because my dad was in the military, and it was always sad to lose my friends, but guess what? I hadn't seen them for a really long time, but you know what? We're still friends. All of my friends from when I was pretty young, I'm still friends with them. And so I want to teach you that. It's really important to remember that even if one of your friends has to move to another place, you could still be friends with them. Especially nowadays, we have technology, we have telephones, we have Facebook, we have text messages. There's so many ways. FaceTime, different ways that you can still see your friends, even if one or both of you has to move to a new place. So you can have all these friends for your whole life. Isn't that cool? I think it's wonderful, and I love seeing my friends that I used to go to high school with or middle school with, and even at my age, I have white hair. I still see them, and it's wonderful. And it's also pretty wonderful to make new friends, too. I hope that you enjoyed the story and that you learned some things and that you have fun having your own special adventures with your friends and your family. Take care, and thank you for joining us tonight. Maybe we'll have another story tomorrow. Good night.